Welcome to Deception Watch News and Commentary. In this episode, we share our commentary about statements made by Pastor Jason Watkins with Bethel Tabernacle in Beaufort, South Carolina. During his sermon on May 11, 2025, Pastor Watkins made statements that are not supported by evidence, and to our knowledge has never corrected them to his internet streaming listeners. Our scientific communities and judicial courts have certified many methods for determining if a claim is true. We will use one of these methods in this video. We contacted Pastor Watkins by email on June 11th, in which we wrote the following. Pastor Jason Watkins, in the quote below, you claim that the royal family of England testified? Absolutely. It's on record. He was there and prayed for the king, and he was healed. We believe this is a false statement, but we have an open mind to being corrected. Please supply us with a copy of this documentation or a link to it. Pastor Watkins has not responded. Let's view the video where Pastor Watkins makes the unsupported statements so we can evaluate for correctness that should be expected from a pastor.
That's what Dr. Davis argued Brother Branham against. He said, Billy, you're just a boy. You're not even educated. You're going to pray for kings? Billy, what's gotten into you? You come to your senses, young man. And he said, well, Dr. Davis.
Let's stop the video right there for a moment. Pastor Jason Watkins just referred to Roy E. Davis as Dr. Roy Davis, portraying him as a credible figure in William Branham's early ministry. But Watkins is repeating a blatant deception, one that Watkins has no excuse for repeating in 2025, with mountains of historical evidence at his fingertips. Let's set the record straight. Roy Alonzo Davis was no doctor. He was a lifelong criminal, white supremacist, and con artist. Born in 1890, Davis co-founded the second iteration of the Ku Klux Klan in 1915, serving as its second-in-command and authoring its rituals. He rose to National Imperial Wizard of the original Knights of the Ku Klux Klan by 1959, leading rallies against racial integration and even halting school desegregation in Dallas in 1958. His criminal record? Extensive. In 1917, when Branham was just 8 years old, Davis was convicted in Texas for forgery and grand theft as part of a band of thieves involved in burglary and check fraud. He served 2 years in prison. Over his life, he faced at least 17 arrests for fraud, theft, illegal firearms, trafficking a minor across state lines in violation of the Mann Act, and impersonating an FBI agent. Davis ordained Branham, mentored him for years at his Pentecostal church. After Davis's church burned down in 1934, amid suspicions of arson tied to KKK rivalries, Branham took over the congregation. Branham tacked on the doctor title in sermons to make his mentor sound legitimate, hiding the racism and crimes from audiences who didn't know better. Watkins knows Davis was a pathological criminal, white supremacist, and con artist, or should. With resources like Wikipedia, historical archives, and podcasts exposing Davis, repeating the doctor lie is complicity in deception. It sanitizes a KKK leader whose influence seeped into Branham's doctrines. To prove this scientifically, let's use Bayesian probability assessment, a method from probability theory, inspired by physics and data science, to update beliefs with evidence. Hypothesis: Roy Davis held a legitimate doctoral degree. Start with a generous prior probability. Now factor in evidence. No documented degrees and biographies, extensive criminal record as a fraudster, self-proclaimed titles without verification, no academic records in archives. Branham's quotes use doctor, but no confirmation. Updating step by step with Bayes' theorem, the final probability drops to less than 1 in 100 million, essentially zero. It's pastoral malpractice to give false integrity to a criminal by streaming to global audience with such nonsense. Watkins, for the sake of your own integrity, retract this deception. Your flock deserves truth, not whitewashed history. Let's start the video again from the beginning and keep in mind what a hideous, morally bankrupt criminal Roy Davis was.
That's what Dr. Davis argued Brother Branham against. He said, Billy, you're just a boy. You're not even educated. You're going to pray for kings? Billy, what's gotten into you? You come to your senses, young man. And he said, well, Dr. Davis, all I know is that's what he told me. I'd pray for kings and monarchs. Did he? Yep. Amen. Have those families, the royal family of England, testified? Absolutely. It's on record. He was there and prayed for the king, and he was healed.
Watkins claims William Branham prayed for King George VI, healed him, and that the royal family testified on record. This is factually bankrupt, a myth Watkins peddles without evidence. Let's dismantle it. Branham's stories shifted. Early on, he prayed remotely via cablegram, declining trips to England. Later, he claimed a 1950 in-person meeting en route to Finland, where the king was healed of multiple sclerosis and played golf the next day. First 18 holes, then 28 in retellings. Reality? No palace records, press mentions, or diplomatic logs of Branham visiting Buckingham. King George's 1950 schedule was public amid health concerns. Branham's name is absent. The king had arteriosclerosis, arterial blockages, and lung cancer, not MS. His health worsened post-1950, leading to death in 1952 from coronary thrombosis. No royal testimonies exist. Branham claimed a thank you letter, but it's never surfaced. Searches of British archives, biographies, and newspapers yield nothing. If true, it would have been global news. Additional historical context readily available through basic research further shreds Watkins' narrative. King George VI's correspondence and health updates were matters of public record, especially during his 1951 operations, which drew global media frenzy. For example, Time magazine's November 1948 article, Hardening Arteries, and September 1951 coverage of his lung removal. If a controversial American faith healer like Branham had prayed for him and elicited a testimony from the royal family, it would have been headline news, particularly in an era when the monarchy was hypersensitive to public image amid post-World War II recovery. Yet searches of digitized royal letters via the Royal Collection Trust or even declassified MI5 files on faith healers, available through the National Archives, turn up nothing. Branham's trip to England in 1950 was for revival meetings. Contemporaneous reports from British tabloids like the Daily Mirror focused on his campaigns but never mentioned the king. Moreover, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and Princess Elizabeth, future Queen Elizabeth II, were deeply involved in the king's care. Neither ever referenced Branham in memoirs, interviews, or official statements. Watkins' absolutely on record is pure invention, likely parroted from Branham cult lore without verification. Using Bayesian assessment again, hypothesis: Branham prayed in person and healed the king. We start with a generous prior probability, then calculate considering evidence. Evidence: inconsistent testimonies, no records, wrong disease, health deteriorated. Personal physicians, including Sir Clement Price Thomas, documented his ailments in detail with no mention of Branham. No letter produced, no contemporary mentions. Royal Archives silent, no palace records, press mentions, or diplomatic logs of Branham visiting Buckingham. Declassified MI5 files on faith healers silent. Neither Queen Elizabeth or Queen Elizabeth II referenced Branham in memoirs, interviews, or official statements. Posterior probability: less than 1 in 10 billion. 0. The jury verdict is clear. Branham's King George VI story is false. What should be the consequences for telling false stories? Some examples: history is filled with accounts of stockbrokers being prosecuted and sent to prison for telling false stories. Investors have suffered terribly because of one man's false stories. Pastor Watkins: what is your congregation losing by listening to you repeat Branham's false stories? If your mother lost her entire life savings to an uneducated con artist, would you address them as doctor? If you were standing in a room full of Roy Davis's victims, would you speak of Roy Davis as Dr. Roy Davis? We respectfully recommend that you do some reflective thinking about the significance of retelling Branham's false stories. Watkins denies his flock the truth while repeating Branham cult lore that has no evidence. This erodes faith and puts stumbling stones in the paths of Christians. Pastor Watkins, we request that you increase your vigilance for truthfulness. Christian principles should inspire you to repent and retract. Thanks for watching. Share this video to combat deception. For resources used for this video, check in the description.